I would like to share a story with you of piloting Miradi Share for the management of an MPA network in the Västerhavet region in Sweden. And this, I'm sorry, yes, now it's working. All right. The aim of this particular pilot was to develop a system that enables to manage projects adaptively, and in particular that enables us to assess effectiveness of individual MPAs, but also of the MPA network, which consists of these individual MPAs, and in the context of a particular marine ecoregion. And that ecoregion is called Västerhavet, and it's in Sweden. This pilot is conducted by a group of wonderful people from different counties that were involved, 3 different counties, Götaland, Halland, and Skåne on the west coast of Sweden, with involvement of the National Swedish Agency for Marine and Water, and with technical guidance of my own organization, Foundations of Success. And to make this pilot a bit more challenging, because obviously it's too easy, they also asked us to fully integrate the different policy requirements. So the context here in Europe is that protected areas follow the logic of a European policy framework called Natura 2000. In addition to that, we have the OSPAR convention, which we report to. In addition to that, there are national policy requirements. So the challenge was to try and integrate these issues fully into this system, and also optimize the ability of this system then to help report in an efficient way on these different levels. So on MPA level, on MPA network level, and also on the marine region level. So to give you an idea of what that looks like is we wanted, in a nutshell, to be able for the different MPAs, so you see here in the diagram, you see here MPA 1, MPA 2, MPA 3, to be able to roll up on network level so that we could say something about how the goals of the individual MPAs, to what extent they're met, but also how they contribute to network goals. So you can see here in the table a mock-up using just one element, seagrass in this case. And you see here that the different MPAs, to what extent their current objectives have met, and you get an idea of, let's say, and their contribution to the overall network objectives. But they also wanted to take this a step further, and that was to figure out how these individual goals then contribute, or the network goals together contribute to the overall health of the marine ecoregion. Now, the interesting challenge for us was to design a system using Miradi and Miradi Share that could handle this kind of complexity of, let's say, nested hierarchies. And this is how we try to imagine, this is how we try to design, think about the structure of this challenge. So the big rectangle, my screen is frozen now. Yes, the big rectangle symbolizes the entire marine region, so Västerhavet. And in Västerhavet, there are obviously different conservation targets symbolized by these green ovals. These conservation targets are in places impacted by direct threats, impacted by these, or symbolized by these red boxes. In this marine region, some of these areas and the conservation targets within them are designated as marine protected areas. And these were for these marine protected areas because they take place in a in one marine region. In terms of makeup, they have very similar components. So one of the first things that we did is we designed a project template that would work for any one of these MPAs in the region. And I'll talk a bit more about that later. This MPA project template was then uploaded, obviously, in Miradi Share for the individual MPAs to be able to download it, adapt it to the circumstances of their individual MPA, and load it back up, so that it allows us to say something about the MPA network. In addition to that MPA network, we also created a Miradi file to capture monitoring data outside the marine protected areas. So in total, we had different MPA files that allow us to say something about the individual MPAs, the MPA network, monitoring data outside the network, and then of course allow us to say something about the effectiveness of MPAs and the network in the context of that overall marine region. So key for this entire exercise obviously is the design of this MPA template, and key for a functional MPA template that would work for across all these different MPAs was the use of taxonomies, so standardized lists of, in this case, key ecological attributes and their associated indicators, goals and objectives, threats, strategies, and other project information, for example, related to the specific locality or the specific legal protection of a status of a particular marine protected area. And I don't expect you to read all the text in this slide, but you can see a list of all the different taxonomies that we have tried to use. And I just want to highlight a few here. What the taxonomies that we, for example, used in the description of key ecological attributes and indicators was the Natura 2000 habitats list, and sometimes also the species list. And so this is what I talked about earlier. It's kind of like the policy requirement that is partly covered in those lists. So what we did is we created this Miradi file that included an archetype conceptual model. And with archetype, I actually mean it's over complete. So it has a list of all the imaginable biological targets in there, and it has a list of all the imaginable direct threats that could impact these biological targets. They're included, and it's focused specifically on two particular strategies. One is the legal protection, so that's the MPA itself, and then a second strategy, which is called the additional fisheries regulation, because often in Sweden, MPA legislation does not allow you to completely regulate fisheries. You need additional legislation for that. So we made archetypes for result chains. They're big and scary because they're over complete. And in these different archetypes behind it, you will recognize here the view of a target view in Miradi, focusing on a particular biological target called shallow soft bottoms. And what we did is we included, let's say, the whole list of associated and other habitats with this particular biological target, and linked it completely through to the relevant taxonomy list. So in this case, the taxonomy list included a national list, but also a Natura 2000 list. And they're all pre-linked, and that pre-linking is easy for the projects that use it because they don't have to link it, but it doesn't exclude the option that a particular project can unlink it and link it to something else if they interpret it differently. So it does allow for an own interpretation of words or even choosing multiple associated habitats. The same logic goes for goals, and we use the taxonomy of something that is called the Marine Strategy Framework Directive. That's our European policy context. So we link them to a set of indicators, link them to a taxonomy of goals. And again, the same we did with the direct threats, and we link them to not only the standard classification that Annette was talking about, the CMP IUCN classification, but also to a local, a European classification of threats, and even to MSFD, Marine Strategy Framework Directive. So in a nutshell, that allows people to take, that template was uploaded in Miradi Share, and that actually allows for individual MPAs to download that template and start creating their own specific MPA management file by adding information, but most of all by deleting factors. And any targets or goals or threats that are not relevant, they can be deleted. And what is left over follows kind of like the standard blueprint for how we want these Miradi factors to be named. And this is absolutely crucial actually for data to be rolled up across MPAs into an MPA network status, so that on a marine ecoregion level, we can start using these data. I'm going to pause here, and I realize fully that my presentation is not over, but I'm going to pause here because my time is up. Are there any questions for me so far? And again, maybe you want to use your Q&A button at the bottom of your screen to ask a few questions. Yeah?
I've got a question while they're coming in.
Sure.
Just that template that you've got in Miradi Share, is that available just as a kind of working example of how others might try to do this roll-up?
Yeah, it is available in Miradi Share. Let me just quickly run through, hang on, a slide that shows the Miradi Share shots. And this is in Miradi Share. We're in the Westerhaven Marine Strategy Proof of Concept. This is available not to the public, I think, but it is to the project team. But in there is a Westerhaven template, and if you're interested that this is shared beyond this group, send me a mail and I'd gladly share it with you. Yeah, thank you. All right. Stella is asking a question, and she's saying this is very interesting. Is this also used by other Mediterranean MPAs? And Stella, no, not yet. So I'm challenging you to try it out. But it's not yet applied. And I must also say this is a pilot. So we conceptually worked it out. We developed a proof of concept, but it's not yet in full use. And one of the main challenges that we have in Sweden is a lack of data, but also that not all the MPAs are trained and willing to use the open standards for the full management of their protected areas. So going back to Tugi's presentation, that's really key, his approach that the individual protected areas are all committed to and have the ability to practice adaptive management with the use of these open standards. Yeah, all right.
Perhaps I can add something. I'm Warren Lockwood, I'll be talking later, but the whole idea of taxonomies is being used by, I think, probably about 20 different programs, including, of course, ANETs. And I'm the point person on building any set of taxonomies for a program. So if you have any ideas or questions about it, I also can help you in understanding what it's about and how they can be used in both Miradi and Miradi Share.
Thank you, Warren. All right, if there are no further questions, I would like to pass over control to Annette again, Annette and Stacy, and hopefully you will share the story of how Miradi Share is used in your organization, Bush Heritage, for the